And we are live. I'm so excited to see you all here, all kinds of people dropping in to have a great discussion with us today. Many of you know my name is Ann Perry. I am a numerologist and a soul coach, and my guest today is Amber Cavanagh, the West Coast medium. Hey, Amber, how good to see you.
Hi. Hi, great to see you. Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, we've been talking about this for a while.
Yeah,
I
I
think
know.
it feels like last summer or something we talked about doing this. Anyway, I'm super excited to introduce Amber to you guys because we just met. Well, it was before Christmas and last fall, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a friend of mine who lives out on the West Coast as well, like Amber does, who said, "You got to meet this gal. You just have to meet this gal." So
Here we are.
heck. Right. Yeah. So, for those of you who don't know Amber, she is the West Coast medium. She has an amazing story, which is actually in her tremendous book right here, which I just finished, by the way, and
Oh,
love
yay.
at the Stroke of Eternity. Right.
Yep.
So, Amber, 2021 was a hell of a rock show for you.
Oh, yes.
You want to share with us, like
Not
maybe?
one I want to repeat or go to again, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
No kidding. No kidding. Like it was. For those of you who are not aware, I mean, Amber's a medium, a psychic medium, and she's been doing this for a long time. But her her experience got biggie sized a little bit on
Yeah.
December 21st, 23rd, sorry, of 2021.
23rd, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, what happened?
Yeah. So I was born this way, a psychic medium. I'm an empath and a healer and a medical intuitive, and I accepted my gifts in 2015. So I'd been a practicing psychic medium, for quite a few years, uh, and I'm obviously not a great psychic because I didn't know what was going to happen. I kind of knew. So that Christmas, um, usually I'm baking and getting ready for a huge dinner because I host, and it was going to be the first dinner after COVID. It was so
Oh,
exciting.
yeah.
And instead of like baking and getting everything ready, I was madly making freezer meals. And I'm like, couldn't understand. And my husband's like, "What are you doing? Like, we need the room for all the Christmas stuff. What are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't know. I just feel like we need," in my mind, I was like, we're going to be tired after Christmas. Maybe we won't want to cook. And so I cooked 6 weeks of freezer meals, not knowing why. I had never done it before. And then we had a day of making gingerbread houses. And after that day, I got a really bad headache that night, like worse than I'd ever had. But I had had chronic headaches throughout my
Hmm.
life, so I didn't really think about it. And so we were all watching a Christmas movie, and I'm like, you know what? I just don't feel good. I got to go to bed. And an hour later, I texted my husband. I don't remember this, but I texted him and said, "You know what? I have the headache's really bad. Can you bring me a Tylenol and Advil?" And he
This is
did.
within your house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were on the couch watching a movie,
Okay.
and he did, and I fell asleep, fell into unconsciousness more than likely because the headache was my carotid dissecting on the left side, and that caused a massive stroke in my sleep. I didn't wake up um, from it because strokes aren't painful. Sometimes the
Mhm.
stuff leading up to them is, but the actual stroke, the type of stroke I have had, wasn't painful. And I didn't wake up, and it actually caused a secondary stroke. So the one stroke completed, which means it went all the way through that artery, and then it started bleeding into a different part of my brain. By the time I woke up, I was fully paralyzed on the right side. I was nonverbal, and I was alone in my room because my husband had fell asleep. Long story short, we got me to the hospital, and they said
By a
pretty much,
helicopter, no less.
well, first ambulance, and because
Yeah.
my hospital here doesn't have a hospital that can do brain surgery for
Gotcha.
strokes. So they gave me the medication that is supposed to reverse the stroke, not knowing how severe it was, and it didn't work. So they were going to life flight me to another hospital,
Mhm.
and they had my family say goodbye. They said more than likely she's not going to make it to the next hospital. Like, it's catastrophic. Um, I didn't show any improvement at all in the being paralyzed, nonverbal, that sort of stuff. I also had an anaphylactic response to the Benadryl that they give you. And so they life flighted me to another hospital. And during that flight,
Mhm.
I was in my body. I was aware of what was going on. I was looking at my husband and kind of out the window because it was like super sunny. And then I wasn't. I was
Mm.
on the other side. I wasn't in my body anymore. My body was still alive, but barely, like clinging to what life it had left. And I could see my body, but I wasn't in it. And so I went to the other side and I got to spend an amazing, it felt like a huge amount of time, even though I know it wasn't, deciding whether or not I wanted to come back. And
Mhm.
so I got to see both futures. I got to see what it would be like if I did
Mm.
come back and what it would be like if I didn't come back. And once you're on the other side, I always say, like, there is no why. Like, why doesn't exist. So you
Mhm.
just know everything. But you also aren't, I don't wanna say not invested because that kinda sounds bad, but you really aren't as invested as a human would be. Like, I could just objectively look and be like, "Okay, well, my kids will be fine this way or that way. My husband will be fine this way. They
Mhm.
plan this too." And I got to choose whether or not I wanted to come back, and obviously, I chose to come back because 'cause I'm sitting here. Um, but yeah, it was an amazing experience and changed the words are still hard. I have aphasia. What is that word?
Trajectory.
Yes, that word.
Yeah.
Certain words I can't say, and
Right.
I'm just very used to it.
Yeah. All good. That's
Yeah,
amazing. So, okay, so you had the choice as to whether you were going to stay or whether you were going to come back.
yeah.
And if I remember correctly, when I was reading your book, you talked about, the decision to come back was probably the tougher of the two decisions.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, so I knew and they showed me, like, they didn't hold anything back. Th
Mhm.
They told me if I came back, I would do amazing things, but the first 18 months would be the hardest time I have ever lived in this physical life,
Wow.
and I would want to leave. I would
Mhm.
regret the choice that I made to come back, and they were not joking. When you're on the other side and it's all rainbows and flowers and you feel wonderful, it's like, "Oh, that's fine, I can handle that. What do you mean? Like,
Yeah.
18 months is nothing," but when you're in this human body and, like, I woke up and they did tell me I would have some deficits, and I do,
Mhm.
that will be
Mhm.
with me the rest of my life, but I had a lot. Like, I still, when I woke up, was fully paralyzed, not even a shadow of movement on my right side. I could
Mm.
say 2 words, my sister's name and the F word, and that's it. I
Yeah.
couldn't walk, I couldn't eat, I couldn't go to the bathroom, I couldn't communicate. All I could do was stare, scared,
Yeah.
not knowing what the and then thinking I made it all up because if this is my life, like,
Mhm.
when I woke up, there's
Mhm.
no way I'll be able to do any of the stuff that they said I would do, right? Like, if I can't
Yeah.
walk or talk and I need and something that happens, I think, for a lot of people that go through something like this and are nonverbal and, you know, can't communicate but can look, people talk in front of them like they aren't
Mm.
there. So, like,
Mhm.
the
Oh, yeah.
doctors would come in and say, like, "You need to start thinking about, like, residential care for your wife if, because it looks like she might survive, but you won't be able to take care of her. Is your home wheelchair accessible?" And they talk in front of you, and I'm just like,
Mhm.
"What? Like, how is this,
Yeah.
how am I gonna do any of those things?"
Mhm.
And I also yes, I was gifted before, but when I came back, I don't know if I didn't invest in it, I didn't really care to, like, read people's thoughts. I didn't find it helpful. I could like, read energy, but not
Mhm.
thoughts, and when I woke up, it didn't matter if they were talking out loud or in their head, I could hear it all, and it was Christmas, and the day I, like, woke up for real, woke up, it was Christmas Day, and every single person that came into my room, they didn't say it out loud, they would say, "Hi, how are you?" And in their head, they're going, "Oh my god, I feel so horrible for this woman, she has young kids, and I couldn't
Mhm.
imagine, and it's Christmas and this," and, like, their panic would make me panic, and I was like, "What the hell?" Like,
Yeah.
can't talk, I can't move, and now I can hear everybody's horrible thoughts about my prognosis, like,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Wow. And, I think as you're telling your story, it makes me think about an experience I had in my life where my brother fell ill with flesh-eating disease, and he
Oh,
went into a
jeez.
coma. And he was in well, it was drug-induced coma for probably 4 months or so. But it was so weird because I ran a little store at the time, and every time I had a question about somebody in a coma, somebody would come in to my shop and we would talk about it. So, for example, one of the things that I was told was, do not make them do tricks. Do not sit by their bed and go, okay, squeeze my hand if you can hear me, or blink your eyes, or wave your finger,
Yeah,
or whatever. Because he said, because this woman who'd been in a coma before had said, no, that's cruelty. It's absolute cruelty.
yeah.
Did you feel that way, or
I felt just frustrated,
yeah.
just as a whole. I actually started once I had some words, because the words came back quick but
Mhm,
slow. I talked like kind of like a child that was learning English, so very monotone,
mhm,
very few like joining words and stuff. And I started to say to my family, like, I understand you're upset and this is hard for you,
mhm.
but if you are going to think like that and feel like that, you have to leave the room
Get out.
because
Yeah,
it's just too much for me. Like, I know you're not saying it and it probably doesn't make sense to you, but your thoughts are too loud and I need positivity right now. Or I just can't. And then once in a while, I would just sit and let them be miserable. Because again, like I am a psychic medium and I can sort of shift and control the energy around me. But a lot of the time, it's like, no, like I understand you're upset. Right now, I
mhm.
don't really care
Yeah,
because I'm barely like breathing. I'm
right.
barely keeping myself alive. Right.
Yeah.
So it was
Well,
hard.
yeah, no doubt. And I do remember, there was a point in time, my brother actually died 5 times in the process. He's here now. He's still here. He
Yeah.
chose to,
Oh, that's good.
the devil didn't want him, they kicked him out. But, kidding. Um, but one of the things I learned through the experience was, as he sat there motionless, hooked up to 17 IV lines, a kidney dialysis machine, complete air, you know, all of it.
Yeah.
What do they call it? The resuscitator or whatever?
Yeah.
Life
Yeah.
support, basically life
Yeah.
support. What I learned was that as people would experience this with him, everybody was learning something from him.
Yeah.
So even in that motionless state that you would have been lying in and that he was lying in, the guy that was coming in to wash his floors at night would look at him and go, holy shit, look at this
Yeah.
guy. I mean, what a will to live. Like, I'm inspired, And
Yeah.
then the next nurse who'd come in who knew nothing about flesh-eating disease, you know, she would um, she would learn something. I mean, she had to learn
Yeah.
something. So even though we're
Yeah.
completely compromised and we're not at what we would have considered to be our best, we're still, if you've got a pulse and you're still breathing,
Yeah.
guess what? You're teaching
And
somebody
sometimes, yeah, even if you're not, right? A
right. But
lot
it's
of
just
people ask me about things like suicide, like, why would
yeah.
somebody choose that ever? And I'm
Mhm.
like, yes, but that person you lost, you're still learning from them.
Yes.
Even though they're not here, you're still learning from them, right? My
Yeah.
kids who were at the time 12 and 14, they're now 14 and 16, they call the stroke their character development.
Mhm.
And they fully already say, like, we are better people for it. Like,
Yes.
we appreciate things so much better. My kids are so amazing. So for
Yeah.
us, we went to counseling, all of us
Of course.
individually and stuff like that. And, got help to deal with it, but they aren't carrying that trauma with them as like a scary, "Oh my gosh, it's gonna happen again," kind of thing, because we just
Mhm.
talk about everything and we understand that everything sort of makes sense and happens for a
Yeah.
reason,
Yeah.
and we're so much closer because of it. That's not always the case for everyone, but,
Mhm.
for our family, it really is.
Well, the big lesson, of course, you learn in all of this is that you can choose to react to it or you can choose to respond to it.
Yeah, yeah,
Either way, you've got the choice, but reacting to
yeah,
things I find keeps me out of my center. It keeps me away from being centered in love and
yeah,
acceptance and tolerance and patience. When I react, as I that's my way.
yeah,
I'm learning how to respond now, but for a long time I was very reactionary
yeah.
and, put an Aries on top of that and, it's not always a good
Well,
look.
and I think I go back and forth. In the beginning, especially those 18 months, oh my
Yep.
gosh, I was very react like I was
You're
only
angry.
react. Like I was I
Yeah.
was mad, I was frustrated, and
Yeah.
when you have a stroke, you have the inability sometimes to like sort of control your emotional lability. So you're
Yeah.
up, you're down. You know, I would cry over nothing. I was kind of childlike, and that's
Mhm.
totally normal for a stroke. But after the stroke, once I landed, my soul was still on the other side, um, and I didn't go back into my body until I was done. I landed, got into the room, and I had a grand mal seizure because my brain was swelling so quickly.
Yeah.
And I went back into my body after that because I had that seizure. And then for the couple hours after, I continued to have small focal seizures, which is just your brain seizing.
Yeah.
They put me on the maximum amount of medication allowed for seizures. And the first 6 months, I had to be on that because there's a high chance of stroke survivors, especially big strokes, developing epilepsy. And I guess it
Mhm.
was like a precautionary so you don't keep having it. I I wouldn't even wish it on my worst enemy being on that type of medication. I
Mhm.
was miserable and I couldn't see the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
And the side effect for me, the biggest one, there was a lot of them. It made me feel like I was like constantly hungover and had 8 cups of coffee. It was not great, but it
Yeah.
also made me want to kill myself, which is a side effect of that type of medication. And they
Mhm.
tried to switch me to a different one and they couldn't. I got too sick. So I had to stay on that for 6 months while trying to learn to talk and walk and eat and all of those things. So they weren't joking when they said, you
Yeah.
know, that first 6 months would be absolutely horrible, but the first 18 months would challenge everything in your entire being.
So what do you I mean, if the theory is correct that we choose, our path, so to speak,
Yeah,
then you have to believe that you've chosen to experience this. So
yeah.
what's the takeaway? What have you learned? What do you feel that you've taken from this that went, hallelujah, it was worth it? Or are you even there yet?
I have learned everything. I
Yeah.
am so much more centered and grounded in my human self. I just understand so much more, I think, and
Mhm.
I'm not gonna say I'm not angry because every once in a while my human self
Of
gets pissed,
course.
and not necessarily because of the stroke, it's more the deficits I'm left with.
Mhm.
It's frustrating and it's a grieving process,
Mhm.
but as a whole, I have learned more in the last 2 years than in my entire life, and
Yeah.
my life was not easy. You know, when you're born, being able to see dead people as a
Mhm.
child, it's not easy. It's not easy to fit into this human sort of construct of this is what you do as a human. This is society's success. It's
Mhm.
very hard to do that when you're a psychic medium
Oh,
and
yeah.
feel like you barely belong on the planet. I have learned so much, and I'm continuing to learn, and I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't not have the stroke. When I was on the other side, they told me this was just one of the options. The other option would have been a car crash, and I would have been in a wheelchair for the
Mhm.
rest of my life, but one of my kids would have been with me. And
Mhm.
so I
Mhm.
chose the stroke.
Mhm.
And I often say, like, we choose our lives. But I think I often forget to say our human self does not. This plan is
Yeah.
made before you come here. And people get so mad at me sometimes. So many of the like negative comments on anything I do is I would never choose this. A child would never choose to be abused. A person would never choose this or that. You know, I'm like,
Mhm.
no, that person, you know, that starving child or that child being abused would never, they're not choosing it.
Yeah.
Obviously not. They're not. Their soul chose and planned this life because their soul knew it was strong enough to walk through it. That doesn't mean it was easy or like, yay, let's do it. But I think people automatically think, what do you mean? You're saying that I chose to be abused or to be in an abusive relationship? No,
Yeah.
you did not. Your soul is a much higher energetic being.
Yeah. I also, in my book, I write, it's almost spooky the way you just described that, because it's almost identical to the way in which I describe it, is
Yeah.
that, bad things happen to good people. We don't know why. I mean, we can't know from our humanness why we make those crazy choices. Why do we choose abusive parents? Why do we choose neglectful spouses, or what? We don't know. But I've often said it's not about us choosing that experience. It's choosing to learn lessons as a result of that experience. And
Yeah.
that there are contracts that exist between us and other people that we can't possibly fathom what that contract is from here. Our soul knows because we made it
Yeah.
on the other side,
Yeah. And
before we
then it'll
came.
all make sense when you get
That's right.
there, right?
But the thing is, for us, the big lesson on this side is to learn how to surrender and trust in the process.
Yeah, which
And
we
I
don't
think,
like, right? We like to
right.
be in control of everything, and, like,
Yeah.
there is no control. I had no control over anything that was happening to my physical body or
Right.
anything after, and even though, "Oh, yay, I went to the other side and it's so wonderful," yes, it was still living hell when
Yes.
I woke up. Like, yes, I had this amazing knowledge and this feeling in the core of who I am, that I am not alone, but it was still horrible, like, being paralyzed, it's not fun.
No.
Having to learn to talk and walk and, there were certain things that I thought I was really good at, like writing. I love writing poetry. And the
Mhm.
first year, I couldn't even write basic words, I like, so, it's not all, again, amazing and wonderful all the time, but I'm still grateful for all of it.
But you kill me because seriously, look at what you've been through, right? I got to tell you, since I was about, I don't know, 42, 43, something like that, every time I connect with anybody, I have a lot of friends who are psychic. We all kind of hang together. And, the first words out of their mouths are, when are you going to write your book, Anne? And I'm like, about what? Anyway, I finally got it. I'll be 65 this year, right? And I finally figured out what the book's going to be about, and it'll come out this year. But how many years has it taken me to find the courage to do it, and B, to let go of all the limiting beliefs I had about myself and all that
Yeah.
bullshit that we put ourselves through, right? You come out of this paralyzing coma of a stroke and whatnot. Boom, there you go.
Well, see, you just needed to die, and then you would have been doing it 20 years ago.
Exactly. But seriously, like I'm completely blown away. Like I'm like I'm
Well, and
thinking stupid things.
I had some help, right? Like,
Of
I
course.
don't think a lot of the book is my guides helped,
Yeah.
right? And
You still
people
had to
just
do it.
that's true, and people just magically fell into my path as they needed. So,
Yeah.
like, I didn't type any of this book because I can't type because this side
Yeah.
doesn't work. And so Sarah Winicky, she contacted me and she did all the typing. I talked and
Wow.
she would transcribe.
Right.
And then right when I was starting to think, okay, I might need an editor now, an author from the States actually reached out to me, and everybody uses the same words. I feel called. And as soon as it says
Mhm.
that, they say that at the beginning, I'm like, yep, that's my guides.
Yeah.
Okay. And she said, I just feel called to help you through this. And so she sent me, these are the step by steps to self publish, and gave me all the names of editors, proofreaders,
Ooh, ooh.
cover designers. Yeah.
Send it
And
to me.
so it was so easy because I
Yeah.
would just say, okay, I'm at this stage now. And she'd be like, okay, you contact this person, that person, this person. I'm like, okay, perfect.
Wow.
Like,
Wow.
it's just divine timing, and obviously I have help with that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
amazing. I love that because, oh, since I started writing my book, everybody's going, "Oh, go on to AI and throw in a sentence or two and have it transcribed. It'll sound." I can't do that. I
See, I
can't do
didn't
it.
even know what AI was when I was doing it, so
Oh,
that's why, so many people are like, "It's like you're just talking in the book because it's literally
well,
just
that's
my
it.
words." I would
That's right.
talk and she would type.
Yeah, but that's what's so amazing. Plus the fact that I feel that those of us who are a little bit more evolved, I guess, maybe energetically sensitive, a little bit more connected, it's no good to us unless we channel it.
Yeah.
Like it's just,
Yeah.
our message has to be, and at least I'm speaking for myself, my message has to be authentic. It's got to be genuine. It cannot be
Yeah.
influenced by AI in any way,
No.
or what's the point? I don't even care if
Yeah.
the book goes out and doesn't sell. Well, it's still mine,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's great. So anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
So I wanted to share, if you're okay with it, I wanted to share something from your book.
Sure.
For those of you who have not seen it yet, it is called At the
Where are
Start.
you? Then I can follow through because I have it in front of me
Oh,
too.
dear. Okay. Imagine that, page 23. So, At the Stroke of Eternity by Amber Cavanagh. And it's one woman's remarkable near-death experience and the divine messages received. So you talk about, you've always been a bit of a poet and whatnot, and this piece really spoke to me. And it's this is what Amber wrote, and this is called The Light. In an instant, a life can change. It may come from discomfort or joy, sadness or pain. We may not understand the purpose of each change as it comes. One day you recognize yourself, you're confident in your purpose. Then something shifts, your world becomes an unfamiliar shadow. You know somewhere deep inside the person you were is screaming to get out. The screams fall on deaf ears as you struggle to stay afloat, just as you're about to give in and let the comforting darkness envelop you. You catch a glimpse of your brightly shining soul. In that moment, a sliver of hope peeks through the shadows. You recognize this place. You've been here before. The strength to climb back into the light was always within you. You just had to experience the darkness to celebrate the light.
That's a good one, hey?
Right? So tell us about that. Tell us about that little piece.
I think for me, that one I think, what chapter is that? 23. So it's when I died. But for me, I wrote that when I was kind of figuring out what the hell my life is going to look like
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
because I was having such a hard time seeing the light because everything was so heavy and I was so miserable. And I felt like such a burden to my family. And
Mm-hmm.
little bits and pieces of sort of joy would start to go, okay, you know what? It's still here,
Mm-hmm.
even though you're really, really struggling. And so I think sometimes it's really important to give purpose to those sort of harder and darker things because you never ever see the other side of that if you don't appreciate that, yes, you're kind of walking through darkness right
Yeah,
now.
yeah. Well,
And
you went through the
so
darkness
with
to
all of every chapter has a poem at the beginning, and my guides helped me write them, but also a bunch of them I actually wrote before the stroke.
Mm-hmm.
I've been writing poetry as- since I could write, I think. And yeah, that one I was in a dark place, and so I was just trying to manifest some
Yeah.
light.
I just
Yeah,
feel this is a book that everybody needs to read. It really is, because you never know. I mean, we certainly didn't expect to have a family member on life support for 5 months before he
yeah,
decided to turn around and come back. He has no recollections of any near-death experiences, but he did. I had a nurse tell me he died 5 times before he finally decided to come around. We were actually told one day that he was gone. I'm in
oh,
Halifax on the East
yeah,
Coast. He's in Toronto. I got my plane ticket booked. I'm going up for the funeral, and I didn't find out until 11 o'clock that night that he was still alive. So
oh
we
my
went through an
goodness,
awful lot. But again, when you read a book like yours, it brings to light not just your own experience, but what could be someone else's experience. And maybe we could have a little bit more compassion for those who are in their hospital beds, who are comatose,
yeah,
or who are in medically induced comas or whatever.
yeah,
Um, it's because it's such a unique experience. And
yeah,
chances are most of us who are listening today, God willing, are not going to go through what you went through,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So this is this is the gift, Amber. This is really an amazing gift. It's
Oh, well, thank
incredible.
you.
No, it's so good.
Yeah, no, I definitely same with, I think the concept of aphasia has come like more public in the last because some famous people have gotten aphasia.
Yeah.
And the one thing I would love for everybody to kind of know about those types of speech deficits,
Hmm.
in my mind, I could talk. In the beginning, I didn't know I wasn't talking. Once I realized, I wasn't saying what I thought I was saying. Um, I slowly learned to talk it very simply, but in my mind, I still was completely me. So I was not a child trying to
Yeah.
talk. My brain could think the complex thoughts. I just couldn't get them out of my mouth.
Right.
And it frustrates me so bad when I see people talking to people with speech deficits, talking to them like they're babies.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though I sound like a baby, my brain is still my brain, my adult brain. And if I could make the words, you would see that, but I just couldn't make the words. So I think people should be cautious kind of when they're talking and approaching anyone who's either in a coma or semi-comatose or
Mhm.
just learning to speak again, like after a stroke and stuff. A lot of the time, their brain is perfectly same with people with cerebral palsy.
Yeah.
Their brains are fine, their bodies and their speech, not so much.
Yeah, it's such a the whole thing is such an amazing, um, concept, really, when you
Yeah,
think about it all, and I remember my brother saying I asked him, I said, "Do you remember anything?" 'Cause I was keen to find out, "You died 5 times, you're a bit of an overachiever, like, I mean, did you see anything? Did you talk to anybody? What's going on?" He said, "No," he said, I don't have any recollection of that other than I knew I had to get back to my family. I
yeah.
didn't know how to do it, but that I kept getting called back. I knew I had 2 little kids and a wife, and I had to get back to my family." He said, "What I do remember is seeing fish going by," and it was finally my mother that figured it out that, because he was in a coma for so long, they had Vaseline on his eyes, because his eyes wouldn't shut, right? So they'd dry
Yeah.
out otherwise. So you put the Vaseline on the eyes. But he was actually right across from the nursing station. And the screensaver was fish. That's all he remembers is seeing these fish going by, right?
Oh, I love that.
So I don't know.
Something to hold on to though, right?
Well,
Like,
yeah, but I think that
yeah.
it's such a journey. I mean, it's a journey what you went through, but making sense of it as you come back. And let's talk a little bit about the ascension process going on right now in 2024, where the
Yeah.
vibration of the planet is just getting like crazy. I don't know about you guys watching right now, but I feel like the planet is in a slingshot and it's just like pulled back like this, and it's like just ready to go and let go. That tension, if you will, right?
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
there's so many, I can't tell you how many men. I'm doing a lot of readings for men right now, and typically it's more, yeah, it's about 75% women, 25% men. But right now, like the men are holding their own. And they're coming to me because the spiritual awakenings that they're having right now are unbelievable. And they are really feeling very unsupported. These guys are taking time out from work and just really having a very difficult time.
I have noticed that the
Yeah.
last couple of months,
Yes.
men commenting on my stuff and not
Yeah.
in a mean way. Like before,
No.
it was just them telling me I'm crazy
Yeah.
or, "Oh God, why does my wife watch you?" kind of thing.
Yeah.
But now it's like, yeah, men are wanting to come into my groups and
Mhm.
commenting on my videos, which usually they
Yeah.
don't. Sometimes wives would be like, "Oh, my husband wants to know this," but the husband
Yeah.
wouldn't actually come and do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, in the last couple of months, like maybe last 8 weeks, I've had a lot of men coming.
Well, 2024, of course, being an 8 universal year, where, it's a more of an assertive, more masculine kind of energy that we're in, and that could be
Yeah,
what's bringing them forward, but I've definitely, definitely noted it, and they're becoming very vulnerable. It's really refreshing to see.
yeah,
Um, but, many, many people right now, I myself included, I feel like I'm more of an observer than I've ever been before.
yeah,
And maybe it's that this slight separation because as our vibration rises, anybody who's watching this, you know what I'm talking about because you wouldn't be watching this if you weren't interested in this
yeah,
sort of thing or drawn to it. So your vibration is kind of up here, and everybody else's is kind of here, right? So we either
yeah,
stay up here and continue to elevate in our consciousness, or we sacrifice who we are and what we're here for, and we drop our vibration so that we can become like our next door neighbor. We
yeah,
become who we think everybody wants us to be so that we can stay connected. But right now it's the courage to stand alone, this courage
yeah,
to be as one, right? But at the same time, I hope I can say this right. At the same time, there's separation going on because we're leaving behind the lower vibrations who don't choose to rise.
yeah.
Right?
Well, and it took me, what, 35 years to go, you know what? Just being like everybody else is not serving me anymore. And I was starting to, number one, be really angry because I was so frustrated that no matter what I did, I just felt like I didn't fit
Yeah.
anywhere. Like,
Yeah.
but I didn't seek out people like me. I
Mhm.
sought out
Mhm.
people that would keep me here
Right.
where I could be that social worker, soccer mom
Safe,
person.
safe.
And I didn't even like, I would
Yeah.
actively shy away from anybody who actually was like me. But
Mhm.
it made
Mhm.
me physically sick. I started getting very physically sick because I was completely ignoring who I was.
Yeah.
and where I was supposed to be. And, it's not always comfortable to be me and,
Right.
to
Yeah.
have these gifts. And sometimes I wish I didn't always know what people were thinking about me because, a good portion of the planet thinks I'm absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
But it's also such a gift that now I just am proud that I am who I am
Mhm.
and have experienced what I've been experiencing and want other people to see that it's okay too.
Well, as I think back when about 10 years ago when I first went on YouTube, I was terrified to go on YouTube. I didn't go because I wanted to go on YouTube. I went because I had a coach that I was working with at the time, and she was my intuitive coach. And she called me one morning and she said, "Once again, Anne, you're not listening. Your guides are with me, and they want me to let you know that you got to get on YouTube." And I'm like, "I'm not going on YouTube. Like, forget it. I'm not. It's not happening. I'm not doing it. I'm not good enough, smart enough, tall enough, young enough. I'm just not enough." Right.
Yeah.
About 2 weeks later, this other psychic phones me. No, I'm lying. She came to me through Facebook. Somebody I didn't know with the same message. You got to get on YouTube. So I went on, and long story short, for about 4 years, I felt like I was the imposter. I thought for
Yeah.
sure one of the big wigs in numerology were going to come out and say, "You don't know what you're talking about. Get off the air, and you're destroying people." And terrified of being called out as not being good enough. But then I realized, because I got a download from Spirit, which one day I was listening, and I got this download, and it said, "Don't you ever worry about not being good enough or smart enough or educated enough or experienced enough. Don't worry about letting people down. Don't worry about, not meeting their expectations, because energetically, only the ones that need to hear what you have to say are even going to gravitate towards you."
Yeah. That's true.
And isn't that liberating for both you and I?
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
sure, the world thinks all of us woo-woo people are kind of crazy, but so what? It's who we are. And those who
Well, and
need
I
us will
think
come
it's
in.
changing too. It's
Yes.
becoming the thing,
Yeah.
right? Like everybody is seeking out energetic
Mhm.
balance, even the coaches, stuff like that,
Yeah.
to do
Yeah,
with
yeah.
energy and your spirit, right?
Yes.
Because there's only so much success humans can have
Yeah.
before they just don't feel like themselves. And so I
Yes.
think it is becoming more, I don't want to say the norm, but closer to the norm.
If you get a chance to read Colette Baron Reid's book Uncharted, she talks a
Somebody has,
lot about.
yeah, somebody messaged me to read that.
Oh, yeah?
I just haven't
Yeah.
done it.
Yeah, yeah. It's well, get on that, will you? I mean, while you're writing books and stuff. No, I'm finding it really great. I'm studying with Colette right now, and I love her stuff anyways, but I found that this particular book really explains what it feels like when you're not on your path, and how
Yeah,
scary it is to come out of the woo-woo closet. And there's
yeah,
so many of us. There's like 111 people. Look at that, 111 of us on the call today, right now. There's a lot of you woo-woo seekers out there. Just do it.
yeah.
Just go do it.
I
Like,
love that there's 111. Isn't
I
that
know,
funny?
right? Nobody leave.
That's my guide. Like when my guides, I'm not listening to them.
Uh-huh.
1111, whatever is the way
Yeah.
they get me. Like they kind of, that's their knock. Like, let's
Yeah.
go. What are you doing?
Cool.
Is 111.
Oh, it's so true though. I mean, we've just I feel when you're guided to this kind of work, when you're guided to these kind of conversations and whatnot, it's because your soul needs to hear what is being spoken,
Yeah,
and it's just every time we take in more information, we're raising our vibration a little bit more and more and more. And then again, as I said earlier, it's like when we're making such an effort by attending things like this. So we're raising our vibration, and we're leaving a bunch of people behind. And then, you know what? That's the other thing I'm finding right now, is that the people that I held really close to me for a long time, they're not cutting it anymore. And
oh,
I'm finding
I've
myself
lost
having to,
huge, yeah.
yeah,
My When I accepted my gifts, I lost an entire group of friends.
yeah,
And then after I kind of got more comfortable with myself, I lost another whole group.
yeah,
And then actually, not to do with spirituality, but just with humanness, when
yeah,
I had the stroke, the whole world came out of the woodwork. Like, oh my
mhm,
gosh, my thoughts and those words,
yeah,
thoughts and prayers are with you, and I'm thinking
yeah,
of you. If there's anything, blah blah. Like 70% of those people never talk to me again.
right,
I don't know if it's the
right,
brain injury or what it is, but then also, well, I started writing a book and that sort of stuff. And
mhm,
so many people I have not seen or heard from since the stroke because people just don't know how to deal or understand. Thankfully, I'd already gone through that with, my spiritual gifts and when I
Yeah,
accepted them. So I was just like, you know what? I'm so grateful. I learned a lot from all of those people. I'll continue to learn from them.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm leaving that there and I'm moving forward with new stuff. I'm not like you though. I don't have a lot of friends like me again
Mhm,
because I
mhm.
avoided it
Yeah,
for
yeah, yeah,
so long, and even when I accepted my gifts, I would, like, find myself comparing, right?
yeah.
Like, "Well, this psychic medium gets symbols," or this, that, and I don't get that, so is there something wrong with me?
Mhm.
And so I would not watch people like me, I would try to completely avoid because every time I did or connected with somebody, I
Yeah.
felt less than, or
Yes.
like I was not doing it right, like, when I channel, I just get information. I do write, but not how a lot of psychics write. I just do it
Mhm.
because I don't remember anything after.
Right.
And I did. I had like imposter syndrome. Like I'm like, I don't want to know anybody like me because what if, you know, I can't do what they do, or maybe
Mm,
I, you
interesting.
know, so
Yeah.
I avoid, and then, once I finally got more comfortable with it, I had young
Yeah.
kids and busy and stuff like that. So I'm
Yeah.
slowly starting to open up my circle, but I had to close a lot of other circles in order to make space for time.
It's one of the reasons we're doing this, guys, is because and I failed to mention that in the beginning. I mean, I was just so excited to talk to Amber and just, shoot the shit, basically. Um, one of the reasons we're doing this is because I have a community called the Clarity Seekers Community. You'll find it on my website, anneperrynumerologist.com. And I created the community because I felt alone. I felt unsupported in my interest in the woo woo, right? I felt like there could be more. And it was even, I live in a rural community of lobster fishermen, and they're wonderful, wonderful people. But guess what, guys? They think I'm a dog groomer, and I'm okay with that, right? I still haven't found the courage to just really step into it and proclaim who I am, because the rejection is more than I can bear right now, right?
Yeah.
So because I'm new to the community, and if you're not from here, you're not from here, right? So, and I have a big need to belong. I know that. So I had to create a space where we would bring in speakers like Amber, who would talk about things that are, not necessarily talked about openly. I have astrologers, we've got human design professionals, gene key people, more psychic mediums in the group. I mean, you name it, it's all there for you. But that's why I created it. So on the 30th of, just a second, let me find my little tricks in here. There we go. On January 30th, why is that coming in? There we go. Tuesday, January 30th at 1 p.m. Eastern. Amber's going to be back on telling more of her story. And this will be, if you're part of the community, this is going to be a Zoom chat, right? So you and Amber are going to be face to face, and you'll be able to ask her questions. She's going to do a little talk about her experience, and basically it's your opportunity to connect, rather than having all this typing the chat thing, which is great too. But if you really want to connect and be able to talk to us and be on a Zoom call, that's the way to do it, right? But you have to join the community to make that happen. So check it out. It is, hang on. Well, it's running by there. It's going to go by here in a second. Sorry, guys. The technology is escaping me right now. Here we go. There, Clarity Seekers Community. So check it out. But I feel that it's very, very important for us to have a space that we can call our own, that you can, one of the things, and this is the last plug I'm going to give for my community, but one of the things I love about it is that you can sit down and go, hey, Amber, pretty sure I saw an alien at the end of my bed last night. And you know what? Nobody's going to go, WTF, you saw what? Get away from me, kind of thing. They're not going to do that, right? They're going to look at you and go, well, that is really cool. Let's talk about that, right? So
Yeah.
it has to be that way, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, I hope you'll check it out. So what was the other thing I want to tell you about that? Oh, you talk about that, not surrounding yourself with too many people of the same kind of profession. I understand that. I do, even though I'm surrounded by many, many people. We have like, I don't know how many teachers we have in the community right now, but there's lots. But I'm writing my book. I'm almost finished. And I had this really kind woman from the United States, and she sent me a box of numerology books, like a 55-pound box.
Oh,
Well,
jeez.
seriously, like I had Spirit has a sense of humor. I had just cleaned out my bookcase of a bunch of stuff, and then she reaches out and she goes, "Yo, I got all these books for you." And I was so grateful because she checked out a bunch of numerologists online, and she decided that I was the one that she wanted to gift all these books to. So she went to great lengths to get them to me. The point I'm trying to make is that when the box arrived, I couldn't open it. I was afraid to open it because I was afraid that if I open that box and start looking at other people's materials, I'm going to go back to that. I don't know enough. I'm going to go back to the imposter
Yeah.
syndrome.
I
And
did the same. I have not
right,
read another NDE book
right,
yet.
yes,
I've watched a couple movies when I was younger.
yeah, yeah,
It fascinated, but I have not read. My sister has,
yeah,
and so she actually helped with stuff, like with the cover designs. They
yeah.
sent me 3, and she's like, "Oh, you can't use that one because that's every NDE book looks exactly like that." And I'm like, "Well, I'm
Interesting.
glad you read them because
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
sure did not."
But I think that's great, though. I mean, I celebrate that about the
Yeah,
two of us that we just didn't go that route because
yeah,
seriously, we might have been doing, I mean, I've been doing this for 21, 22 years, something like that, and you're likely the same.
yeah,
But it's got to stay authentic and it can't be swayed or influenced by somebody else,
yeah, yeah.
right? So I think that's important. Let's go to the comments
You
here.
wanna This is how not techy I am. I just saw that there's comments because I was on private chat. Oh, look
Okay.
at all these comments, woohoo.
Oh, Uh, yeah. So, who's got any questions for us? Go ahead. You're welcome to post them. We'll do what we can to get through a few before we close up. Um, all kinds of people in here.
Oh, good, somebody got my book last night. Yay.
Bonus. Excellent. Oh, it's a great read. It really is a great read. Okay, so Jasmine's saying, Amber, you're an incredible, strong woman to go through what you went through with the stroke. Amber, I think to come back and work with your family. You've come back to work with your family. That's a possibility. Um, and somebody asked I think it might have been Bud, asked if you became a psychic medium after your near-death experience, or did you have it prior?
No, I was born this way. Yeah, I knew I was, well, I didn't know what it was, but I could see dead people from my earliest conscious memory,
Mhm.
which before the stroke was about 3 or 4. After the stroke, not only could I read people's minds, I had complete memory of my entire childhood. So I could remember being
Interesting.
born. I could remember at 6 weeks old laying on my parents' carpet on a blanket, and I was crying and crying, and they couldn't figure out why, and it was because I was laying on a wool blanket, and I'm super allergic to wool, and so it
Uh,
was painful. I
right.
could remember that. I could remember being in bassinets and stuff, so yeah.
Wow.
Um, I was born this way, and I knew it from my first conscious memories. Yeah.
I I know your theme song. Lady Gaga. I was born this
Yes!
way.
Yeah, it is.
I'm on the right track, baby. I was born this way. Okay, I'll stop. um, okay, Jessica's saying, I was just thinking about reading your book again, Amber. I just know there will be more to learn the second, third, fourth, and fifth time. That is so true. I think
Yeah.
that's a really good comment, Jessica. That's how I felt about it as well. Like there was
Well, and
some,
I love,
like,
like,
I knew,
yeah.
but oh yeah,
Some of it, like, people have sent me, like, highlighted parts, which I love, or, like, Post-its and stuff. I'm
yes,
just like, "Oh my gosh, that means they're really, like, getting into it,"
yeah,
which I
yeah.
love.
Well, I
I
think the
like
fact that
this
you
is
got
so
it,
funny. Some of the pictures, I probably should have explained, like, I like this one, you can't it's the first words that I wrote,
yeah.
and I was trying to write all different things, but my brain kept writing only Michelle, which is my sister's name. So I wrote Michelle and I started crossing it out because I'm like, "Oh
Yeah.
my god, I don't wanna write that again." And I was writing like, "This is a tissue box because
Yeah.
I didn't have paper and I was still in the hospital, so I would,
Yeah.
like, take my chart and stuff, just write on it. Yeah.
You must have been a favorite patient.
Oh, yes.
So I know I have a lot of friends who are psychic mediums and whatnot, and a couple who are actually, they teach mediumship and whatnot. What's your feeling on that in terms of, you were born with what we refer to as the gift, right?
Yeah.
But I've also heard that everybody has the gift, that just some are born with it more developed than others. Would that be fair to say?
In my belief, not quite.
Okay.
Younger souls need to not be connected to the other side, or they will go back to it. They need to just be very human.
Mm-hmm.
And if they connect to the other side, they remember it, I think, a little bit more, and then it's harder to stay here. And so
Right.
they might take an earlier exit point. And so it's actually not beneficial for them to try to, and if they do, often it'll lead to severe mental illness. So that, like, younger souls or people that are here to, like, really dig deep into this human thing and what it means to be human is
Mm-hmm.
not beneficial and can actually be detrimental. But, like, so let's say that's maybe 40% of humans on the planet
Okay.
right now. The rest can start to sort of connect and or remember or find meaning in things outside of this physical realm, this physical dimension.
So what about, I mean, you talk about the going to the other side.
Yeah.
Um, and I know that's what a psychic medium will do per se, but
Yeah.
wouldn't going training to be a psychic medium, would that not be in order to just tap into spirits on the other side? Like
Yeah, but
I never really
it
thought about
also
it as that.
brings, yeah, it also brings you though to a higher vibrational energy, and if your physical body is not meant for that, it can cause you sickness, it can cause you mental illness, it can cause
Mhm,
you to, yeah, that's why a lot of people who, like, you know, train and do really connect, if they're not meant to and they're meant to, like, be focused more on this human thing,
mhm,
so many psychic mediums struggle with depression, anxiety, and
mhm.
or like psychosis, schizophrenia, because you're participating in a higher energy
Yep.
than your mind, body, soul connection is meant to be at. And I even have gone sometimes just too far with it to where
Mhm,
then I'm getting anxious because I'm not allowing myself to kind of come back down and just be average, normal energy. I'm like
mhm,
too excited, too invested sometimes. So
mhm.
it is a real risk. And, I saying anybody could do it, I think it's just,
Whether they should or they shouldn't.
yes, that's better. Whether
Yeah,
they should or shouldn't for their mind, body, soul connection and whether or not it will be beneficial or detrimental to their soul's journey.
right.
That's why I don't necessarily teach it. I am just starting to understand that because I did a intuition class on
Mhm,
Zoom for the first time last
mhm.
month, I think,
Good.
and my guides were so clear that the people who are called to take it are meant to connect.
Yes.
So you're not doing any harm by saying and teaching what we say to teach. And
Yes.
so, but it took me a lot, like I accepted my gifts in 2015. It took me that long to go, I don't want to teach anyone to do this because it was so hard for me and so awful for me, and I would hate to put somebody over the edge. And I've actually had one or two people who have come to me, especially in the beginning when I didn't have as many boundaries, and I had led them down that direction, and it caused severe mental illness for them because
Wow.
they weren't taking breaks. They were just waking up constantly trying to connect.
Yeah. But I think that I'm glad you talked about that because I feel like that's kind of what 2024 is like for a lot of people in
Yeah.
that the vibration is changing. It is changing rapidly. If you have not listened to Lee Harris's video that he did it with Alex Ferrari.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah,
and it's called, I think it's called Things Are Going to Get Weird in 2024.
yeah.
Y'all need to watch that. That was an amazing talk about how the vibration is changing. That those of us who are more energetically sensitive and a little bit more tapped in are feeling it and feeling the anxiety because it's new and it's different. But we're not feeling it nearly as much as those who are not awake at all. Right, the
Yeah.
ones that are not awake at all are just having their asses kicked right now as
Well,
they're trying to keep up, so to speak.
yeah.
Right? It's like a different language. You talk about feeling isolated. I specialize in helping master number 11s, and the master 11s, their vibration is higher. It's finer. They chose a tougher path than most, right? Because the number one vibration is double the need to be independent, double the need to be creative, to be original, be authentic, to be in alignment with your integrity. They double the intensity of that, right? So it keeps them kind of up here, unrelatable to those who are down here. And they're always trying to negotiate the space between the two. How do I navigate this? I can't be by myself, and yet I can't stay down here where it's really heavy and I'm not fulfilling what I said I would come to do. And I feel like that's a general overall energy that is going on the planet right now, where nobody really knows where they fit right now.
Yeah. Well, and I think, at least for me, it for me a little bit more of a comfortable place to be,
Yep.
because I think people are starting to understand that there is a purpose to start, like, understand that mind body soul connection
Yes.
and how that is so important. Um, Whereas, 5 years ago, people were like, "What? What are you talking about?" So for me, I feel quite comfortable. Not all the time. I definitely am more anxious than I ever have been before. Um, but it all makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, it's a weird time, where we're all feeling the need to kind of hang on to each other because there's so much going on in the world right now that's really scary. And yet there's a big need for us to step into our own and to become
Yeah,
who we said we would become, and to stand in that. And that's what 2024 is all about, this 8 vibration for the universe. 2024, 2
yeah,
plus 0 plus 2 plus 4 equals 8. So we're all being asked to step into our power, but that brings in a little bit of fear and a little bit of anxiety and such.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's intense. There's no question. There's something else I was going to say to that, and it left me. Anyway,
Oh, somebody said they have a book club and just finished reading my book. Oh,
wow,
that's
that's
exciting.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Isn't that good?
Oh, hey, there's my sister is watching. She commented.
Hey, Michelle.
That's a great name, she said. That's fun.
Was that your Michelle? Oh my God, I saw that. That's funny. That's too funny.
Oh,
Anyway, well, I think we've done as much as we can do today, Amber. I so appreciate you being here. My gosh, this has been wonderful. I've been really looking forward to this.
yes,
And
thank you for having me.
oh my gosh, my pleasure. I hope that everybody's going to join us on the 30th.
Yeah.
Here we go, right here. Hang on. You mess up my thingy thing. There we go. Okay, Clarity Seekers Community. It's going to be on January the 30th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to go live with Amber again. This time you will actually be on a Zoom call where you can chat with her, you can talk with her, you can ask her questions, you can ask me questions, you can pick our brains. But it's going to be an awful lot of fun. So I do hope.
And so how do people, like, because I can see like a lot of these names are people from my Facebook page that
Yep,
obviously it must have worked.
it did work. I can see it.
Yay,
It worked before. It worked. And you figured it out.
right?
Amazing.
Miracles do happen. So how do they find that
So they're
chat?
going
Like
to go.
what?
They have to sign up for the community. So you're going to go. There it is. There, AnnPerryNumerologist.com. Let me see if I can stop it from ticking. Hang on.
Just so that they know to,
I
oh,
can't make.
there's some,
There we go. It's if you go to AnnPerryNumerologist.com, it's pretty easy.
yeah,
AnnPerryNumerologist.com, and then at the very top you're going to see Clarity Seekers Community. You're going to click on that link, and it'll take you and it'll show you the whole page of everything that's included in the community. I think you'll be blown away. This is, I
perfect.
call this the Cadillac Ranch. This is where you want to hang out with like-minded people, where you can just feel at home and you can get to know a lot of people and hang out with us in the live events. We have 13 live events coming up in February alone, right?
Oh,
We
wow.
only used to do one event. Now we're doing 13.
Oh,
So
that's busy.
yeah, it is. So I'm looking forward to it. So we have an expert coming in to talk to us about oracle cards and how to pull the oracle cards. We've got a gal that talks. She's got a circle in our group where we help everybody with NLP and
Oh,
human design and astrology and gene keys and psychic mediumship. We got all kinds of cool stuff going on. So y'all need to check it out.
yeah.
And if you want to hang out with Amber and me live on the 30th, we would love to have you. So check it out. So thanks so much, guys. Really appreciate you being here. There we go. And yeah, if you wouldn't mind sharing the news about Amber's book, would really appreciate it. Make sure everybody knows. I'm sure they can locate a copy on Amazon, but if not, the westcoastmedium.com would be your gateway to be able to find that. So, and any other
Perfect.
options.
Or my Facebook. I don't really use my website or my website. My website is garbage. So Facebook,
I thought it was kind of nice.
I need a new one. But again, I'm not techie, so social media is where I am. I do a lot of live videos and stuff.
She has a very
So,
short memory for sure, because she just
yeah.
figured out how to connect her Facebook community to my group here. I couldn't even lead her through it, and in a matter of minutes, she had it figured out. So don't let her tell you that
Woohoo!
for a second. She's so busted. Anyway, thanks, guys. Love you tons.
Yes.
Looking forward to see you on the 30th, and we'll chat again. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.